Hello, everyone. I am Athena Alea, and I am here with my beautiful, wonderful friend and sister, Karen Teal, professional astrologer. And today on our podcast, The Energy Surrounding You, we are going to talk about the Venus alignments, which are coming up because Venus rules abundance, beauty, love, money, pleasure. And so, being that we all live in this physical realm, those tend to be very important topics in terms of our personal satisfaction and our quality of life. And there's some alignments coming up here. I'll let Karen talk about it in just a sec. That, when you hear about them at first, you might be like, but what we're going to do on the energy surrounding you is we are going to talk about them, their significance, and then we're going to give you some tips and tricks on how to manage them so you come out on the other side golden and not feeling debilitated about them, because it's all about empowerment. These alignments happen for you. They're not against you. The planets are not attacking you. They are there to reveal areas where you can improve yourself and become your best, most potent version possible. So, Karen, give us a little rundown of what's going to come up here in the next tomorrow, tomorrow,
Yeah.
August 19th, and then in the next few weeks with respect to beautiful Venus Aphrodite energy that is coming through with some alignments that people might be a little woo about.
Yeah. Well, we got a big theme with Venus in the next probably like 2 to 3 weeks, I would say. A lot of action with Venus as she kind of moves across your chart or all of our charts. Especially tomorrow, we have, if you get a chance to watch, we have this amazing video about the Aquarius full moon. But on that same day, tomorrow, August 19th, we also have quite a lot of action from Venus as well. And we have a Venus square Jupiter, we have a Venus opposite Saturn. And that's what we have for that day. And then there's more stuff kind of coming up. But the reason why we're saying don't be scared of this is because all these aspects, or not all of them, but most of them are what we call kind of tense aspects in astrology. The squares and the oppositions are the ones that create this tension or maybe bring about an obstacle or a struggle that we're going to experience in our life. And it's not to attack us, it's not to bring us down. It's actually it's for the purpose of empowering us, because if we look at this kind of life that we're living as kind of these series of lessons and themes that we're going through to give us this immense growth as a person and as a soul, then we can look at these squares and oppositions as more things to be finding solutions for, or ways to ease whatever tension comes about. So, for example, with a lot of Venus transits, there could be a lot of themes about money. And when we look at money in astrology, we directly attribute it to self-worth. So a lot of times in people's charts, the amount of money that you can bring in will be directly related to your self-worth and what the work that you do on it, and kind of even the perspective that you have of how you go about living life based on how you feel about yourself and your self-worth and values. But another thing that Venus rules, besides the Taurian things that we mentioned, are also the Libra things, that have to do with relationships, diplomacy, finding balance in our lives, how we kind of interact with people and develop our relationships, and what these relationships have to teach us in our lives, because we are a social species. As much as we like to, some of us, especially myself, we like to kind of hole up in a cave and be a hermit. Really, those social interactions are what are going to bring about immense growth for us as human beings. So it could really manifest either way for you. How these Venus aspects will affect you are going to, of course, depend on your personal chart placements. People who have their charts ruled by Venus, so the Taurus risings and the Libra risings could be very much affected by what Venus is doing, because whatever Venus is doing kind of affects their whole chart because it's their chart ruler. So, Athena and I always recommend that if you don't know what your chart ruler is, which planet rules your chart, it would be good to do some research and find out. Just because you can pay attention to how that planet moves around your chart, and you can see kind of themes and patterns and lessons, and you'll get kind of a deeper insight into what your life experience is at that time. So let me just really quickly reiterate what the squares and oppositions mean. So a square in astrology is when two planets are making essentially a 90-degree angle to each other. So it creates kind of a square shape because that's the angles that squares use. People who have a lot of squares in their chart natally, I can speak from personal experience. I think I have 15 squares in my chart because I have several grand crosses. So I'm actually used to the energy of the squares, which it's almost like the people who when there's like a natural disaster or something, the people who kind of stay calm and know what to do are probably people who have a lot of squares and oppositions in their charts because they're used to these energies where, it's kind of they're faced with a lot of challenges and they have to kind of find solutions to figure out how to ease that tension. So the way out with most squares is if you look at what the square is forming, what two planets are being used. If you look at the kind of empty parts that would make a full cross, those are generally your ways out. So for example, when we're looking at the Venus square Jupiter, Jupiter right now is in Gemini and Venus is in Virgo. So wherever it is in your chart, the way out of the tension of this particular square could be in Sagittarius or in the sign of Pisces. The issue with that is that Venus is also going to be opposing Saturn in Pisces that way. So if we look at that, it forms a T square, which are 3 points of tension. So we have this Aquarius full moon on Monday, and then we have this T square. So that means that the way out is really going to be is where is Sagittarius in your chart? What planets do you have in Sagittarius? What can you use to your advantage? Sagittarius has a lot to do with teaching. It has to do with philosophy, expanding your mind. So therein could be a secret that could help you if you're feeling kind of being pulled in 3 different directions on Monday or early this week.
Yeah, that's really great. For those of you who maybe are new to astrology or are unfamiliar with some of the finer facets of it, and you want to figure these things out that Karen mentioned to you, you could reach out to Karen for a reading, or to myself. I'm happy to help people. You can also go to something like astroseek.com, which is a free astrology website, and you can look up your natal chart. And you would need to have your birthday, birth time, or as close to it as you can get, and also where you were born, and then look at where your ascendant is, and then in terms of some of these squares and stuff that Karen mentioned, you can also run on AstroSeek a transit chart, and then you can always do searches too for like, what is Sagittarius energy, what does that mean spiritually and stuff, if you want to go at it yourself. But again, we're here to support you as well. So we want to provide you with information to empower yourself. Now, in terms of, squares and oppositions, people tend to be scared of these because, oftentimes they present challenges or maybe some rough spots in your life, right? And nobody likes that, right? Nobody wants that. But hey, guess what? Those things are there for you. So, let's be honest. Change doesn't come without any kind of challenges, because otherwise we just hang out in bed all day petting our cats, right? Just hanging out with the dog, not doing anything. We need to have things that come in and challenge us to help us do things in life, to become better people in life, to become stronger, to be more mature, to have better relationships, Um, I often think about times like, for example, when maybe I've been in a relationship and we've had some struggle and then we take a break. And then, through that, there's a revelation about, how much you care about someone. And when you come back again, that might give you the opportunity to reconcile those things, right? And now your relationship is even happier. Sometimes maybe it makes you just realize that's not for me, right? So, but you sit there and you in the struggle until you find a way to release yourself from it. And then what are you on the other side? Well, you're better for it. In some magical and esoteric traditions, there's this concept of Isis, Apophis, Osiris. Isis is the phase where you're like, wow, everything's so beautiful, wonderful, comfy. And then Apophis is the phase where you go through those challenges, right? But then once you come through them and you've learned the lessons, now you're blessed with the Osiris phase, right? The phase in which you have died to the old and you're reborn into a new self, a higher self, a better self, right? And who doesn't like that? Because it's way better on the other side. Things serve you for a period of time, but not for always. And so we have to be willing to move through them. And that these kind of, you know, uh, alignments that happen in transits and the way they interact with our natal charts give us opportunities to see what is now old and what is new. What's on the new horizon? What's over there across that mountain? What's on the top of the mountain? It gives you a better perspective and it helps you to be fresher and stronger and achieve things. So I like to look at them as opportunities. Um, Sometimes it doesn't always feel great emotionally or psychologically speaking. But again, it's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because that's your higher self speaking to you and saying, "Hey, look, this is no longer serving you. There's something better for you right over there. Let's go on a journey together and go and find it and reveal it for ourselves." So let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about how people can maybe manage, these energies for themselves. You mentioned that Venus often has a lot to do with money and finances. And people, especially in the way our society, many societies are structured, that has a lot to do with our personal, ideas of our self worth, right? Somebody has been out of work for a while, or maybe they're not doing great in their job. That can really impact, us emotionally, psychologically. There's a lot of fears related to money. Venus can impact our romantic relationships or, how we view ourselves in terms of our self worth, our physical appearance, our health, right? So let's say somebody is coming into something and they're like, ooh, I'm stressed, Karen, I'm stressed. I'm stressed. This square, this opposition has got me feeling like, so what do I do, Karen? What are some tools that I can use to navigate these situations coming up so I can come through it on the other side, really feeling better about myself, taking it to the next level? What are some suggestions you have for our viewers?
One of the big things that we could be forced to reflect on during this time is really what we value. And that kind of carries over into all these other Venusian aspects. Because when we realize what is at the core of what we value, then it kind of boosts our self worth. It can make us change our views on money. It can affect our views on our relationships, what we will and won't accept in relationships from people. And so all these Venusian themes that are coming up in the next few weeks are going to be happening like that on a macro scale as well as on a micro scale. So we're going to see things, out in the world People are going to maybe have some kind of tensions with money. There could be, new things coming out with that Aquarius full moon having to do with money that we could be finding out. Um, and that forces us to think of something new, to come up with some new way of dealing with these tensions that we're having. And I mentioned earlier that a lot of the ways out of these kind of tense aspects that are involving Venus, the way out can be kind of through Sagittarian means. And what that means is teaching. It can also be learning something we call higher learning. So we think of like college or university as like higher learning, or if you're going to go do a trade, or let's say you want to go take an astrology class, or even something in a spiritual sense. So if that's something you've been thinking about doing, I would definitely recommend you do it. Again, don't be fearful of the fact that it's Mercury retrograde. If you've been thinking about learning something new for a while and you haven't had the opportunity to do it, this Mercury retrograde period is actually perfect for that because it's about revisiting things. So if you're worried about money, then there could be another perspective to look at, because Sagittarius also has a lot to do with open-mindedness and kind of seeing things from other perspectives and just really expanding your mind, because Jupiter is about expanding anything that it touches on. So look at things from a different way. Look at it as a way to, how can I learn something new that that maybe can help my values or boost my value in maybe the field of work that I'm in. Or even if you're like a stay-at-home mom or something, maybe there's a way that you can make your life a little bit more efficient by learning something new that actually helps you and gives you a chance to get a more of a break in your day. So any of those things. And Venus is really a beneficial planet. We call it a benefic in astrology because generally, even if she's having hard aspects, Venus wants to bring beautiful things into your life. She wants to bring love, relationships, beauty, to boost you loving the way that you look and feeling good about yourself when you leave the house. She wants you to have beautiful, like, eat delicious food, enjoy art. Those are all Venusian themes. And so even when she's having a hard aspect, the idea is that something good will come out of that. It's kind of changing the way you look at it and seeing it more as whatever obstacles you're facing, let's think outside the box, come up with a solution, because there is a rest, there is a reward at the end of this. It's just, maybe changing how you look at it.
Yeah, that's very good. And I think that really plays also into those Aquarian energies of, thinking differently, looking for other opportunities, thinking outside the box. Um, a lot of people have a hard time doing this because we live a very structured life and we may be very conditioned to think, well, in order to do this, I have to do this, 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 and this, right? But that doesn't always give us the opportunity to move into something new, right? That list that you made for yourself, that served probably a purpose for where you're at in life now. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's an old list that you should get rid of and make yourself a new list. Um, you got to give yourself space though. And I think this is really important. I think in line too with, those energies of Sagittarius. Sagittarius loves freedom, adventure. We're so locked into things. We hardly give ourselves time, to have that. Take a day for yourself. Venus is having some hard aspects. Spa day, baby. That's I say spa day, man or woman or other unicorn, whatnot. You can't afford to go to the spa. That's fine. Go
Create it at home. Do it at
I got
home.
I got a whole spa thing going at my house. I got little
Yeah,
face masks, some scrubs. I make them myself. And Venus is about self-care too, right? Like
absolutely.
Karen was mentioning that you want to use these as opportunities, aspects as opportunities to create more value, right, in your life. Well, you have to treat yourself, you have to let yourself recognize you have value. And I see this every day, right? I would say most people have some insecurities. Many people have insecurities which cripple them, which rule them, which control them, and how they look at life and perceive life and feel, you know, positive or negative about what they can do and how they can interact with people. You got to release that poverty mentality and recognize you are inherently worthy. That means you were born with worth, born with value. And if you don't believe me, I want you to think about the concept of murder, right? Somebody kills another person. We know it's horrible. Why? Because we recognize every single person has inherent value just by existing, right? And so, there's a lot of embedded ideas in the collective consciousness about humility and, all this kind of stuff that are misunderstood, right? It makes people feel like, well, if I'm humble, that means I have to make myself low and less than everyone else. And I got to serve everyone else and do everything for everyone else, but not for me. And you may even feel that as like a pious aspect of your personal spiritual practice or something, but you have to ask yourself, okay, you know, how is that impacting me psychologically and emotionally? If you have a false understanding of humility and servitude and piety, right? What you could be doing is just debilitating yourself to the point where you're not actually engaging in your true purpose. There's nothing wrong with feeling good about yourself. There's nothing wrong with being empowered. You know, when you feel confident and empowered and you have value, then you can bring value to the world. As long as you sit there and constantly beat yourself up internally, you can't fulfill your dreams. You can't achieve your higher purpose. You can't be the best for everyone, right? Because you're drawing energy out of yourself. You want your kid to grow up and be a good person. Well, you got to be a good person in front of them. You're snapping off at them all the time because you're stressed. They're going to do that to other people too and to their kids. And those kids are going to do it to their kids, right? Like, do you want that for yourself? So, this is a great time to reflect on the things that you want in life and ask yourself what's not benefiting you. And with the full moon in Aquarius, a lot of people are going to go really, really deep on that. And you should let yourself. Don't be afraid to dig deep. Don't be afraid to feel those emotions and allow them to help motivate you into better circumstances for yourself, your family, the world. While we're talking about Venus, it's coming on the Aquarian full moon. Aquarius has to do with humanitarian issues, right? Social issues. A lot of us are really thinking a lot about that, especially in America with the election season coming up and stuff. Um, go out there, take some action, do something that makes you feel good. Go volunteer your time into something that makes you feel good. I want to volunteer myself to pet little kittens all day that are waiting for adoption. Okay, let's go.
I love that. And that brings up another great point that Venus has a lot to do because it rules Taurus and it has a lot to do with the earth and kind of like earthy things. And so connecting with the earth, going out in nature, there could be a lot of stuff on a macro scale in the next couple weeks that do have to do with the earth. There could be themes of environmental issues coming up that we could see around the world, or how things with the earth impact us as a species, or how our species impacts the earth. So there's also this idea of the connectedness with nature and even animals and things too. We think of animals as being kind of in the sixth house with Virgo, but we are approaching the sun in Virgo. And so with all the Venus and then there's all this Virgo coming in, I would think that nature and animals would have, an importance too. what are some other things you can do during this time with Venus loves like poetry and singing and music and even like dance and things like that. So creative, releasing energy through these creative means. And we think of Venus also having to do with like the Empress card. So there's this like feminine energy coming in. So feminine issues could be really important in the next 3 weeks or come into the fold a lot more. And so, connect with that feminine energy. Even if you're a man watching this, you still have divine feminine within you. This is an opportunity to connect with that. Read some poetry, or even like, men can treat themselves. They can do a spa day for themselves.
Yes,
There's nothing
please.
wrong with them caring about how they look or wanting to put their best face out there in the world. And really just appreciate the uniqueness of your beauty, because we have Aquarius, which is what makes you unique, what makes you unconventional. There is no one on this earth like you. And so if you are feeling the tenseness of these squares and oppositions, and just use that energy to create something out of it that beautifies your life, that makes you feel better about yourself and boosts your self-esteem and self-worth.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And just touching back on the nature thing, nature can be very healing. For my followers on social media, you'll recall very recently, I went on a little hermetic trip. Spent some time at Yellowstone, and you know, there's zero reception out there. You can get nothing, right? So here I am in a beautiful place with no reception, and I was going through a really big personal transformation. Right before I left on the trip, I just, I really felt that mix up inside. And, I even was going through like doubts about myself, doubts about my spiritual path, and I spent some, about a week or so out there. And let me tell you, I came back a new woman. There's just getting away from these little boxes we put ourselves in, like in the city and in our car, and like physical boxes, right? And letting yourself just be expansive. Go out to the local woods or something. Let yourself get that healing energy from Mother Earth, that feminine energy from Gaia, like you said, man or woman, however you identify yourself. We all have that divine feminine and masculine in us. And the divine feminine is about healing, it's about nurturing, it's about loving, and knowing it's okay to love yourself. I'm going to talk about maybe something might be a little controversial, but what about some sex therapy? Yes, I said it.
Yeah,
You
pleasure is like you should allow yourself to feel pleasure.
yeah, I'm going to lightly touch on a little technique here. But a lot of people grow up with these ideas about sex being dirty, shameful, you got to restrict yourself. And yeah, I mean, you can't objectify yourself or other people, right? That's really where the negative impacts of sexuality come in, is when you start using other people for your pleasure, or you engage in it in an addictive way that's pulling your energy from things that are important to do in life. But that being said, sex energy it's holy. It is, the creative force. And what a lot of people don't know is that the way that we feel in the physical realm with respect to sex during and, at the peak of it, is the physical expression of spiritual divine union. You could think about the various um, uh, artistic pieces that have been created throughout history, like the Ecstasy of Saint Therese, for example. Highly controversial at the time, but when you look at that beautiful sculpture, right? The point that was being made is when you ascend into union with the divine, it's an ecstasy. right? And that gets reflected here in the physical realm in our sexual energy. So, one thing that I suggest, to people who need to heal maybe issues related to their root chakra, or they have issues with self value, which very much can impact the root chakra and the sexual energy, is, go have a spa day, a private spa day, and let yourself engage in that in an individual personal practice. While you're doing that, tell yourself, this is beautiful. This is holy. This is sacred. This is valuable. This is the essence of the life force. This brings me closer to the divine when I respect it, when I respect myself, when I share it with myself in a healthy manner, when I share it with another out of love and respect and companionship and knowing, right? Allowing yourself essentially the opportunity to revise those patterns that may have been embedded in you, when you were younger, through societal norms or maybe even abuse and stuff, allowing yourself to start freeing yourself. This is very Venusian. And, for people like myself, I suffered sexual abuse when I was younger. Being able to truly get in touch with that side of myself and not being scared of it freed me of a lot of psychological hangups that I dealt with, like an eating disorder and toxic relationships and substance abuse problems that I had when I was younger. It all came down to healing that connection I had with my sexual energy, which was then related to my self-worth. So, um, be pro yourself on every level and know that it's not egotistical. It's not about, oh yeah, I'm the best in your, no, it's about we're all amazing, fantastic. And I get to celebrate that for myself and for others too. Whatever you engage in during this time as a healing mechanism, you know, um, just allow yourself to love yourself. Really, truly, there's nothing wrong with that. And you'll be a better person for it.
I love that. And so much having to do with healing with these aspects because during this time, this 2 week period, Venus is in Virgo. It's been in Virgo for since it went in on August 4th. So we are not going to have it move into Libra until the 29th. So that idea of healing, healing through the earth, healing through self care, even healing through interacting with animals, because Virgo is small animals, or what we think of as pets, because we think of Pisces as like kind of the large megafauna or whatever. But anyway, so all these things that we've mentioned are just however it manifests for you. It can be one means, or it can be kind of like an amalgam or like a phasing in and out of all these other things we've mentioned. These things are going to come up. And just, the key here is just to kind of lean back on what Athena has been saying and like see this as a period of healing, see it as a period to come back to yourself. And that's really the way that you're going to be the most successful during all these Venus transits. And let me just quickly tell you what the rest of them are. On Thursday, the 22nd, we have Venus square Mars. So all the stuff you mentioned about the sexual energy totally plays into that, and that applies to that. And then we have in the following week on the 27th, we have Venus trine Uranus. There can be unexpected money. There could be unexpected expenses depending on your chart, but money could be important during this time. And then later we're going to have on the 29th, Venus trine Pluto. So much transformative energy during this month. People's lives could really change. And it is going to depend on your chart, but I think a lot of people are going to experience big changes in their life, maybe having to do with money or relationships, or even just you could just have a huge boost to your self-worth. You could get noticed for something. A lot of opportunities for unexpected things to happen that are really going to shake up people's lives. But I would think for the most part in a good way.
Yeah. It's all going to be good. It's all going to be good. Just
Yeah.
remember that. Here's a little, we have to get going here. So I'm going to end with this, a little additional, we'll call it life hack. When the aspects, the alignments, right, are quote unquote harsh. I don't really like using that word because it's all good. But what I like to say to myself as I fall asleep and as I wake up, right? Because those periods of time in the day access your limbic system, which is associated with your subconscious. So essentially, you seed that down into your subconscious, right? And you realign yourself on every level. I like to say, I invoke the highest power of the planetary and astrological energies onto me in their most beneficent form during these transformational periods, that I will benefit from them and I will experience true joy, spiritual wisdom, and enlightenment. And I love to do that because, energy it works on a gradient, right? So if you're sitting there focused on the lowest energy part of it, then you're going to probably be invoking some harder stuff, right? But if you focus on the higher energy part of it, then even if some stuff comes in, right, you're going to be able to allow yourself to experience the best, most beneficent qualities of it. So bask yourself in that, focus on that, the highest energy vibration of the planets and the zodiacal signs. Bring that into your life. Bring that into
Yeah.
your life. So go Venus.
Love
Go
it.
Venus. All right, loves. Thank you, Karen, so much for your
Yeah.
wonderful insight and wisdom. It's always a pleasure. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Karen, do you have any final words for our audience?
No, I just want to say thank you to everyone for watching and, just do the best you can out there. It's just a kind of about doing our best. We're not, we can't all be perfect. I know it's hard if you got a lot of Virgo in your chart. You really want that, but which like I Virgo moon and rising, so it's like this striving perfection, but it's really just about doing your best. Some days are going to be better than others. Some days you're going to reach that high point that you want to, and some days you're only going to be able to meet it halfway. Do the best you can and what you can do, and just have fun with things and create something, because the world wants to see you shine, and so there's no need to be hiding.
That's right. I love that. That's beautiful. Um, yeah, may everyone have a blessed full moon experience. And may Venus, the energy of Aphrodite, love, abundance, wealth, bestow her strength and beauty on you in every facet of your life. All right, we love you, everyone, and we will see you next time on the energy surrounding you. Bye.
Bye.